Alright, so there's going to be three keybinds I'm going to be showcasing today. One is going to be a simple keybind that I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have seen on Roblox platform for console support. And the other two is basically just a keybind that I've gotten from other games and kind of just put together to make it a lot better, okay? The reason why I'm doing this is because I just want to see a lot more games come out with console support and also help devs to kind of understand what type of keybinds are better for controller players as well. So if you're new, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into it, some key points that I'm going to be going over as I'm showing you guys the keybinds. All right, number one is that I created these keybinds to where you don't have to take your hand off of the right stick so much. I like to think of Roblox games as if I was playing something like Call of Duty, like a shooter game, right? Because you have to aim a lot when you're, playing or when you're fighting and stuff like that, right? And for the people who like using lock-on, honestly, I feel like a lot of people should start learning how to play without lock-on, because in my opinion, lock-on is very inconsistent. All right, I've not really seen any game on Roblox that has pulled off lock-on. The only two games I've seen that have pulled off lock-on to a good amount is Absolvement and Peroxide, and even those two games still have flaws. All right, number one flaw that I don't like with lock-on is your field of view. Because you're locked onto someone, you can't really see shit around you so much. All right, your entire focus is going to be on that person that is fighting you. So if they're using any move that goes behind you, or if they have like an attack that literally teleports behind you, like in Final Stand, or they're using like an AoE move, it's going to be a lot more harder to block. It's going to be a lot more harder to parry. And of course, like I said, the teleportation behind you is just very, very annoying. In Final Stand Remastered, if they teleport behind you, there's a skill that teleports behind you. If they do that, it instantly removes the lock-on. Like you're going to be lost. You're going to have to start looking for the person around. I'm telling you, lock-on is very, very inconsistent. I feel like a lot of people should start playing without the lock-on. That's why I'm making this keybind video, because I want more games to bring out keybinds like this so that people can't play without the lock-on. All right. Number two key point is the sensitivity. This is very important. If you're not going to add lock-on into your game, because I know a lot of devs usually don't like adding lock-on because it's a lot more annoying to program and stuff like that. But if you know you're not going to add lock-on, please increase the sensitivity. By default, Roblox does not increase the sensitivity. I don't know why they do that. That is so dumb. They should be the ones that should, saying it should just be there. When you increase the sensitivity, it goes up. But for some reason, any new game that comes out, the sensitivity is really, really slow. Anytime you put it up, it doesn't turn around as fast. All right, so please devs, either you put the sensitivity in your game, or I know there's a way devs do it where they're able to fix the actual sensitivity from the Roblox menu tab or something like that. But that's the number two right there. All right, and the last key point is going to be the combat mode on and combat mode off. You're going to see a lot in some of the keybinds I'm going to show in today's video. The first game I've seen that did this was Typeso, and I think it's a really great idea for games who have a lot of keybinds in their game. Combat mode on and combat mode off. What this does is that it puts the keybinds that are not combat oriented, all right, stuff like gripping, carrying, transformations, talking to NPCs, maybe interacting or put it on clothes and all that stuff, basically stuff that is not combat oriented, it puts it in the combat mode off. All right, and in the combat mode on, that's when you have the combat oriented keybinds. All right, and usually what games used to activate this is if you bring out your weapon and put it back, it basically switches between combat mode on and combat mode off. All right, or you could just have a separate keybind that does that. It's up to you, but you're gonna see it a lot in today's video. But that's it for the key points. Let's get into the video. All right, so the first keybind is going to be the L1R1 keybinds. All right, now I like to call this L1R1 keybind because that's the thing that stands out to me the most about the keybind, and I would recommend this keybinds for games that have very few binds. Another things that you can also implement into your game if you want to have more keybinds for games like this is double tapping a button to do some certain command, or click two buttons at the same time. For example, R2 plus X could be an uppercut. Okay, so that's basically it right there. But for the keybinds, you guys can see it on the screen right here. L1 R1 is to scroll through your inventory and hotbar skills. I'm pretty sure you guys already know about that. Now, a key point I want to make, because I see a lot of devs do this, is that don't make the activations automatic. All right, when I scroll to a skill, it should not be automatic. There should be an activation button after I scroll to that skill. All right, Now, why shouldn't you make it automatic? Is because it's just a hassle. All right, say for example, I want to use a skill at 5. I would have to scroll through my entire hotbar skill and use all of it just to get to 5. There has to be an activation button, and don't make the activation button R2. Okay, activation button should be one of the D-pads. It's better if it's one of the D-pads. R2 should be M1. All right, always, every single game, R2 should be M1. All right, because majority of the Roblox games on console, R2 is always M1. I'm tired of seeing games put in square as M1, circle as M1, triangle as M1. Bro, we need some consistent keybinds. I don't want to be going into a different game I'm playing and it's a different stuff every single time. I have to relearn the keybinds and relearn the way to use the keybinds to fight and stuff like that. It's a hassle. All right, so let's try to make keybinds similar. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm making this video today. Now, for these keybinds that I drew here for this one, block and parry is going to be L2, X is going to be to jump, square is going to be to pop your mode. And if your game has a partial mode or anything like that, before you actually pop your mode, it could be L2 plus square. All right, this goes back to the thing I was talking about, where it's like you can have 2 keybinds to be able to use something in your game. And what that basically means is that if I press L2 basically changes that keybind. It changes that button's keybind to a different keybind. All right, that's basically what it is. All right, if I press square ordinarily, it's to pop my mode, but if I press L2 and then press square, it does a different thing. I just want to break it down so you guys can understand. There's a lot of games that do this on Roblox. If you devs can just go to a bunch of Roblox games and play them, you're gonna see a lot of games have this. All right, triangle is going to be to crit for this type of keybinds. Triangle is going to be the crit. Circle is dashing or flash step. All right, now for dashing and flash step, if your game is one of those games where it's like you have to hold the button to flash step, for example in Peroxide, it will be better to have it in L3 and then make your running automatic. All right, for console players, make the running automatic. Basically, if you move with your left stick, it's going to be automatic running. You're gonna run. All right, and then make L3 to hold to dash. All right, but if your game does not have the hold to dash stuff like Peroxide, I'm using Peroxide so you guys can understand what I'm talking about, then it's better to have your dashing and flash step on circle. It's just better. A lot of games do this as well. Like I said, it's a lot more common. That's also the reason why I put dashing as circle. I don't want to see dashing in triangle. That's just crazy. Square, no. We want it to be consistent. That's also another reason why I'm making these keybinds as well. L3 is going to be to click to run, not to hold to run. Click to run. That is what L3 is going to be. Okay, now for those people who don't know what L3 and R3 is, L3 and R3 is basically clicking your right and left stick, because your right and left sticks on your controller have buttons inside them. So when you click them, that's basically L3 and R3. All right, so we have combat mode on and off. I already talked about this. This is for games that have a lot more keybinds, or for games that just don't want to put some of the keybinds as UIs. Okay, because if you notice, there's some games that put like the menus and all that stuff as UIs for console players. But if you don't want to do that, combat mode on and off is something that you can do. All right, when in combat mode off, you can have your menu buttons, you can have your grip, you can have your carry, you can have to pop your mode and all that stuff that is not combat oriented. You can have it in combat mode off, but in combat mode on, that's when you use all your combat keybinds. All right, right D-pad is going to be to use your weapon skill or mode skill. Down D-pad is going to use a weapon skill or mode skill. All right, the reason why I did the weapon skill or mode skill is because some games have weapon skills instead of mode skills. All right, some games have the hotbar skills and your weapon skills, while some games don't really have weapon skills. They just have your hotbar skills and your mode skills. So right D-pad can be a weapon skill or mode skill. Down D-pad, weapon skill or mode skill. To be able to use, if you have 5, all right, if you want to use the other 3, this is where another thing that I talked about comes in. You press L2 plus the right and down D-pad to be able to have the extra keybinds for the extra modes. Grip, carry, using partial modes, all that stuff are non-combat stuff, and they can be in combat mode off. All right, I already explained that. But that's basically it for the first keybinds right there. Like I said, it's very simple. There's really nothing to it. It's just your hotbar and then your skills and all that stuff. Okay. All right. So this next keybind right here is the keybind that I would recommend to any new Roblox anime game coming into the platform. I know that I said that the L1R1 method is a good keybind, but this one is just way better. All right. One of the major problems I have with the L1R1 method is that you have to look down on your hotbar almost every single time when you're playing, because you want to know what skill you're scrolling to and what skill you don't want to use at that point. And also, it's just slower. You feel me? Going from one skill to the other is just slow as hell. That's just my opinion on it. Not that it can be done, not that it can be used. This keybinds right here is just way better because you just have to click a key. It's a lot easier to learn, especially for newer players, and it's just very fluid. So this is a keybind suggestion I made for Guri, so that's what I'm going to be using to showcase these keybinds. I'm using it because Guri had a lot of keybinds in their game, and there's also going to be certain keybinds that I'm going to go over that I feel like some games do have in their game already. I don't know if that made sense, but let's just get into it. So combat mode on and off is going to be square, so this one does have combat mode on and off. The reason why I did combat mode on and off is because I didn't want to bother the devs with making UI, because I heard some devs were complaining about making UI and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, forget about the UI, just put menu as one of the UIs, and then I can make keybind for the other ones. So combat mode off, we had down D-pad as grip, triangle as awaken, circle as dash. You double tap circle to roll cancel. So for those roguelike games that have been looking for how to add a roll cancel into the game for controller players, double tapping circle is going to be to roll cancel. X is going to be to jump. R1 is going to be to carry. Up D-pad is a partial weapon. Guri had this thing where it's like you were able to equip your hand combat, and you're also able to equip your cognate as well. There were two separate keybinds, but I don't know if this really matters. If you have like partial weapon or something like that, I guess this would be something you could do. Left D-pad is location icons. Right D-pad is going to be cognate. And I was saying Guri, like I just explained. L2 plus right D-pad is going to be cognate V2, all right, because the right D-pad is already cognate, and then we plus L2 and right D-pad is going to be cognate stage 2, all right. Now in this keybinds, you're going to see a lot of plus buttons, adding two buttons together, because that's the way this keybind is. It's basically just pressing two buttons together, but there's a certain way that I laid it out so that way it's a lot more easy to use without lock on. Of course, if you want to add lock on in your game for console players, you can still add lock on, but like I said, it's just better if you just learn how to play without lock on as a controller player, because it's just way better, I'm telling you. Activate run is going to be L3. This should not be to hold, just like I said in the last one. This is not holding to run. This is just click to run. Zoom in and zoom out is going to be R3. This is just for the people who don't want to use the lock on, all right, so that they can zoom out and have a good field of view, all right. But if you want to lock on, L2 plus R3 can be to lock on. Lock on should be in the combat mode on, all right. It shouldn't be in combat mode off, all right. So in combat mode on, you press square. Combat mode on, R2 is going to be to M1. Like I said, R2 is always M1. X plus R2 is going to be jump M1. So if you jump to the air, it gives you a different M1. That's basically like an air M1 or something like that. If you play the Guri, you know what I'm talking about. But if you decide to add that into your game, that's something you can do right there. Triangle is to M2 or crit, all right. Guri had M2 and crit, but since majority of the games usually don't have M2 and crit, I just put triangle as M2 or crit, all right. Triangle is usually just crit in most games. R2 plus X is going to be to uppercut, all right. So the last one was X plus R2, all right. This one is R2 plus X. So it's you press R2 before X to do an uppercut. X is going to be to jump, that's the regular one. X plus triangle is going to be to jump crit, similar to the X plus R2, the jump M1s. All right, circle is going to be to dash, double tap circle is going to be to dash cancel. R1 is to block. And then for using your hotbar skills, up D-pad, right D-pad, left D-pad, and down D-pad without holding anything, without pressing anything, the regular D-pads will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and then when you hold L2, right, there's going to be two activators for this keybind, L2 and L1. All right, L1 is going to be to use your mode skills, and L2 is going to be to use your regular hotbar skills. All right, so L2 plus up D-pad, right D-pad, left D-pad, and down D-pad is going to be 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then triangle and circle is going to be 9 and 0. Now, if you have minus and equals, then you can add L2 plus R1 and L2 plus L1 for minus and equals. But I'm pretty sure a lot of games usually don't add minus and equals. The only two games I see that have, the only game I've seen that has minus and equals is only Type Salt. Maybe Deepwoken, but I don't know. I don't see a lot of console players play Deepwoken. All right. And then for mode skills, L1 plus up D-pad, right D-pad, left D-pad, and down D-pad is going to be 4 mode skills. And then triangle is going to be for the 5th one. If you don't have mode skills, then L1 can be your crit, and then triangle can be something else. So that's it for the keybind, the second keybind right there. Let's go into the last keybind real quick. All right, so this last type of keybind is what I call the Jujutsu Infinite type of keybind. Now, why I like to call this Jujutsu Infinite type keybinds is because Jujutsu Infinite is the only game that I've played that I actually enjoyed that has this type of keybinds. Now, another game that has this type of keybind is bloxfruits, but Jujutsu Infinite's keybinds is just way better. Now, the Jujutsu Infinite keybinds right now that they have in the game is good, but it's only good if you're going to have lock-on. If you're not going to have lock-on in your game, or if you're not looking to implement lock-on into your game, then this keybinds I'm going to give you right now is another option for you to put. All right, so M1 is going to be R2, L1 and L2 and L1 becomes the activators to use your skills. In Jujutsu Infinite it's R2 and L2, but I shifted it to L2 and L1 because it's a lot more better to use, and plus your M1 becomes R2, which makes it easier for you to look around while you're M1ing. R1 becomes block, triangle and square becomes to scroll through your inventory selection, basically the one where it's like you move between your weapon and your melee and stuff like that. Running is L3. If you don't have auto run in your game, running is going to be L3. If you do have auto run, then L3 can be lock on, or it can be super dashes or something like that. Zooming in and zooming out is going to be R3. This is important, especially for people who don't want to use lock on. Then lock on can be L2 plus R3. Dashing is going to be circle. This is already regular. Up D-pad is going to be to vent or evade. I put evade there because GPO has evade too. GPO also has this type of keybinds. I forgot GPO also does have this type of keybinds as well. So GPO, if you're watching this, you could literally use this as your keybinds. Down D-pad is going to be to warp. This is just a Jujutsu Infinite thing. This could be something else in your game. If you have any other keybinds that you want to put there, this could be something else. Left D-pad is going to be to focus. Again, this is something that could also be in your game. If you have something else in your game, this is something that could be that. All right, and then right D-pad is for mode. So that is basically it for the keybind right there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I mean, this video is really not for entertainment purposes. This is just for developers to add keybinds into their game. I hope I covered everything that you guys would like to know. If you guys have any more questions, just put it down in the comments down below, or you can chat me up on Discord. If you want me to recommend keybinds for your game, just chat me up on Discord. I will gladly recommend keybinds for you in your game. I play on console almost every single time, so I know what is better and what is not better. Another thing I would like to say is, please, if you're making a game, add a way to be able to customize your keybinds, because as much as I'm recommending these keybinds right here, there's going to be a lot of console players that's going to disagree with me. All right, and a lot of console players also say that it's better to just have a way to customize your keybinds because people play differently. All right, you guys add customization for keybinds for keyboard and mouse players, might as well just do it for console players as well. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you like the video, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Catch you on the next video. Peace.